What's up, horror fans? Anchor Pete here, and I'm with my daughter, Pepper. She has not been on the Lasercast channel in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Pepper, how you doing?
I'm great.
Yes, we have brought her back because just like Danny and Charlotte, Pepper and I are going to be covering Stranger Things Season 4, which just premiered last night on Netflix, which was Friday, May 27th. So, Pepper, you and I just watched episode 1.
Yep, we just finished it today.
Yes. One thing that we should explain to you guys is that on the Lasercast, we don't binge watch the whole show and then review the whole thing in one shot. We actually want to do episode by episode. So Pepper and I are just covering episode 1. Do you remember the title of episode 1?
No. Hellfire Club.
The Hellfire Club. Good job. The Hellfire Club. Did you know that's actually an X-Men reference?
No.
The Hellfire Club are some bad guys from the X-Men. So it's kind of funny that the club, the D&D club in this episode were named after X-Men bad guys.
Yeah. It had the idea of the Hellfire Club come out on the time period yet?
Yeah, the Duffer Brothers, who are the guys that make the show, right? They wrote and directed this episode. They are big X-Men fans, particularly from this time in the 80s where Chris Claremont was writing the comic, right? And 11 on the show is very much like Jean Grey from the comics. Yeah. So what do you think of that opening with 11?
Oh yeah, I thought that was actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
I thought the way they did it was well made.
Yeah, it's really sad because there was that little disclaimer at the beginning talking about how there was a shooting in Texas. We live in Texas. We're actually about an hour or so away from where the shooting happened. And the disclaimer was that there might be some disturbing scenes. And I was affected. They had dead children laying across the floor. And you notice that the children kind of had bent limbs and there was a lot of blood. And I think that the idea was that you were to think that 11 had killed them. Did you think 11 had killed them in that episode in the beginning?
11's already kind of traumatized, but I feel if she murdered a bunch of kids, there would be a lot more issues with her mentally.
Yeah.
So, I didn't think that she did that.
I think that what they were trying to get across was that she was this dangerous thing. They showed all these kids, and they seemed like they were kind of this positive little community, right? And you had that guy Brenner, played by Matthew Modine, in the very beginning, and he seemed nicer to these kids, didn't he, than the way he did in the first season?
Yeah.
Right? And so they show all these kids, and it's kind of very similar to this scene in the first Matrix movie where there's all these talented kids doing kind of psychic things, and they show all these kids with numbers on their arms, and then they show the number 11 on the door, and it was kind of right? And so he gets taken out, and then the kid that he was working with, did you remember that part when he was being tested? He was testing the kid?
Oh, yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, too.
Did that remind you of any movie that we saw from the 80s?
No.
I'm just going to keep putting you on the spot and ask you questions. It reminded me of Ghostbusters. Do you remember, Venkman in the beginning? He's testing that guy and the girl with the cards, and the girl keeps getting the wrong answer, but he's telling her she's doing a good job. And then the guy's getting the right answer, and he's, giving him electroshocks. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
She's just pretending she remembered it, but that's okay.
I do sort of, but I don't. How is that similar?
Because it's like that. Because Brenner was, drawing a picture on his pad, and he would have the kid guess what he was drawing. Right?
Yeah.
All right, whatever. It reminded me of Ghostbusters, okay? So we cut to the present day, and we have Stranger Things people that are in California and Stranger Things people that are, of course, in Hawkins, right? Mm-hmm. Did you like the California stuff better or the Hawkins stuff better?
I actually like the California stuff better.
Really?
Yeah, the Hawkins stuff, I know it's supposed to be the same town, but it felt very different without Hopper for some reason.
Yeah, of course.
And then and the California stuff was just more interesting to me.
You were saying when we were watching it that Hawkins actually didn't even kind of look like Hawkins, right?
No, it looked like it was a whole new place. I guess it's because they advanced to high school, but it's the town didn't look the same either to me.
Mm-hmm. It's been a real long time since that third season, and I'm assuming they're kind of shooting in the same place, but it did look a little different. One of the things that, I'm sure Danny will talk about with Charlotte too, is that each episode of this season cost $30 million to make. And that's kind of crazy, right?
Oh, yeah. They're probably going to make it all back, though.
I guess, with Netflix subscribers. But it just, makes every episode like a movie, right? And they're kind of long too. This episode was like an hour and 18 minutes, right? So did you think that the show overall like looked better, like looked more like a movie too?
I didn't really notice that much of the differences. I guess there was a lot more like special effects though.
Yeah, especially with that opening, that like kind of scene in the lab,
and then at the ending too.
Yeah. So Danny was messaging me, and he was saying that it was kind of scary, and it was very much like a Nightmare on Elm Street. Now you've never seen a Nightmare on Elm Street, but do you know which killer is in that?
Freddy Krueger.
Good. All right. Cool. And Freddy gets kids in their dreams, right?
Yeah.
And so in this new monster, seemed to be focused on that one girl, right?
Yeah.
And they've already kind of revealed what he's going to be. They call him Vecna.
Yeah.
And there was a character like that in the game they were playing too, right?
What? Okay, sorry.
No,
this is kind of a different point.
Yeah.
But he was like, he seemed mostly focused on pretending to be the girl's mom.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if either the mom was dead or something bad happened to her as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might be right. There definitely was something up with the mom, and then eventually they showed the dad too, right?
Yeah.
But with the mom, I think they were implying that the mom kind of was abusive, if just maybe mentally abusive to the daughter, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what the cheerleader's name was. I wrote it down. Shit. Chrissy? That sounds like that could be right. Yeah. Chrissy, right? So Chrissy is this cheerleader, and we see her throughout the episode. Max kind of interacts with her a little bit throughout the episode, and she's very troubled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chrissy. And so the mom is we see like little dream sequences with her, and the mom keeps kind of saying things like, oh, well, maybe we'll loosen up the dress in the back and then it could fit you, or I'll hem this dress so that it could fit, your body. And so that's kind of implying that
she's calling her fat, and then she did call her a fat pig at one point.
Yeah, pretty horrible stuff, right? Yeah. So Pepper just wrote me a note saying, I think her sister's locked outside. Pepper's gonna go get her. I'm gonna make a point. You can still hear me though, right, Pep?
Yeah, man.
Okay, yeah, man. Here we go. So one of the points I want to make, so there's a lot of extra characters in this show, including this cheerleader Chrissy that we were talking about, right? And I think that the extra characters kind of prove a point that I have about this show. Holy shit. Okay, Pepper just fell. Coming back over to the table. Be careful now. So did you like any of these new characters?
I sort of liked the D&D guy, like the
Eddie,
but he was also kind of annoying.
Exactly. So that's my point I want to make, right? My point that I want to make is that this show in general, it's like very melodramatic and over the top. And often I kind of wonder, do the writers, the Duffer Brothers, know how kind of ridiculous it seems? Are they kind of laughing at themselves? On the same hand, I kind of feel like they know how much of a phenomenon Stranger Things is. And like, they're like, look, it's this character. It's these awesome characters that you love so much. And a lot of times I feel like they're kind of mediocre characters, right? So that character of Eddie, and I'll stop rambling in 1 second. I just got to make this one point and I'm good for this episode. This one character, Eddie, he's kind of a good example, right? Because I feel like the show is always like, hey, remember this 80s nostalgia? Remember this from the 80s? His name's Eddie. He kind of looks like Eddie Van Halen, right?
The hair.
Right. And even his face kind of looks like Eddie Van Halen. But then he acts like David Lee Roth, who's the lead singer of Van Halen, right? He's so over the top. He's like throwing himself out of his lunch chair and stepping on the tables and giving finger to everybody. He's like so over the top. And I'm like, oh God, this guy's so fucking annoying, right? Mm-hmm. But then by the end of the episode, I'm like, I fucking love this guy. And I think that's the way that Stranger Things is. I think it's like so over the top and ridiculous, and you kind of hate everybody at first, but then you end up liking them.
Yeah. I feel like the only character that's like straight up likable is 11. Because, obviously she's more silent. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the characters are kind of annoying, but you sort of grow fond of them because of their way they handle traumatic situations. I don't know. I think they're kind of annoying when they're just living their ordinary lives, but when they're getting attacked by monsters, they're a lot more interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. So let's talk about 11, right, for a second.
Yeah.
Danny was saying that he had a problem with 11 in this episode. He said that he liked Eddie, right?
Yeah.
With 11, I thought that even though she's, been in like a facility for her whole life, I thought that she kind of had that awareness that she would like make this diorama and talk about her dad being this hero in the town. I thought it just seemed kind of too obvious that like no one else in the class would appreciate that. I thought that she was kind of setting herself up for failure. I thought it was like too obvious that she did that.
I think if she explained how her father died saving people, not in the way, that he actually did die, but in the way, like saying he died in a mall fire, if she explained it better, then they might have actually thought that was cool and understood. However, she just kind of went up there and stuttered. So yeah, that wasn't.
Yeah, well, she has a very unique way of talking because she wasn't raised like a normal person, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that someone had like addressed how she explains that to people in class. Because like if a kid went in front of the class and started talking like that, I'd be like, what's going on here? Is she like from another country and she doesn't really know how to speak English? Is there something kind of mentally wrong with her?
Yeah.
And so they just kind of play up how awkward she is. And I thought that it was cool that they showed how, like in previous seasons, if someone had like insulted her or one of her friends, she might use her powers and mess up one of those people, right?
Yeah.
But in this, she's kind of powerless, right?
Yeah.
And you burst out laughing when she was gonna use her powers finally, right? So what ended up happening?
She just like looked at that girl and screamed and like stuck her hand out.
Yeah, she said the girl's name and then she just went and nothing happened. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh my god, I would die if that was me.
Yeah, which is funny because like that's how when they filmed the show, that's what it must look like. It's just this teenage girl going and nothing happening.
Yeah.
Right. So did you like that part?
That was really funny. However, I kind of felt bad for her. That must suck.
Oh yeah. I feel real bad for her, and she's under the impression that Hopper's dead. Everyone thinks that Hopper's dead. We know better because we've seen some of the promotional footage, right? And and even like the last scene of the last season too showed him alive. Yeah. Right? I think.
Yes, it did. And there's also that little Russian doll with the note.
Yeah. But see, that's a good example too. That guy that Joyce calls, he's like so over the top and annoying. Do you know that guy's name?
Oh, I actually kind of like him.
Right, exactly. He's so over the top and ridiculous, but you end up liking him, right?
I do like him, yeah.
What's that guy's name?
I don't know.
Yeah. And Pepper was so funny because like he gets up and he just had his karate lesson and he gets naked and he takes off his clothes, but there's like a little like statue or something, right, where his crotch would be, and Pepper's like, that was strategically placed.
Yeah.
And that was just like in Austin Powers. You haven't seen that movie yet.
It was like in what's that movie called? The one with the sand? The Dune?
Dune?
Yes.
Oh, with Oscar Isaac at the table when he's all naked?
Yeah.
Yes. That happens in a lot of movies, but Austin Powers has a whole sequence where they just do that for like 5 minutes where just stuff keeps covering people's body parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's probably pretty awkward talking about this with your dad live in front of everybody. So, let's see. I think that we should talk about some of the other characters, the main characters. So Mike and Dustin have joined that Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The dramatic, over-the-top characters that are just kind of side characters, I like them a lot better than like the 4 boys.
Really?
Yes.
So you're not a fan of like Mike and Dustin and
Dustin's kind of funny, but he's gotten kind of annoying.
You think so?
Yes, he just seems sort of like he thinks he's kind of cool, talking about how his girlfriend and him hacked his grades.
Oh yeah. I thought that might have been stretching it a little bit that they're in 1986 and she's like hacking his report card. I'm not sure if that would have happened, but you never know. I don't know. What's the guy's name on the team? The basketball team? Lucas.
Lucas, yes.
So Lucas has like a kind of a kid in play kind of haircut. He's got this big.
No.
Yeah, did you think he had the worst haircut out of everybody? I thought that 11 had the worst haircut.
11 did not have the worst haircut. Okay.
Okay.
It wasn't that big a stretch. I think that haircut is. People are making variants of that haircut today. So, but it was pretty bad.
Yeah, well, believe me, that was a fashion that kind of was in the late 80s, early 90s, right? So he's on a basketball team, and
can we talk about emo girl?
Well, which one's emo girl? There's like 15 emo girls. Which one?
Redhead emo, Max.
Oh yeah, Max. Well, it kind of makes sense, right? Her brother died last season.
Yeah, but he was a total jerk to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, what do you think about Max? Tell me.
I think she's sort of annoying for being very rude to Lucas because he decided to kind of try and move on with his life, which is obviously unrealistic. I think all of them trying to just sitting there playing D&D is unrealistic. They'd all be in mental hospitals in reality.
Right. Yeah. After all the stuff they've seen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like trying to put yourself out there after all that stuff has happened to you and trying to move on is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Especially after all the things that have happened. But Max is treating him like he's a jerk for playing basketball. Like I don't know about that.
Yeah, she's obviously having a hard time moving on after her stepbrother's death in the last season. And the whole episode is her just shutting herself off from everyone. She's got headphones on, and she's kind of closing herself off to the world. Now that we're talking about Max, I was thinking, do you think that the guidance counselor has any connection to that creature? Because the guidance counselor talked to that cheerleader. The cheerleader came out of her office and she was kind of upset, and then that creature eventually got her.
The cheerleader?
Yeah, Chrissy. Do you remember Chrissy went to go see the guidance counselor right before Max? She came out and she was upset. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the guidance counselor is connected to that creature at all?
I mean, I guess it would make sense, but it also could just be she's talking to the guidance counselor and she was upset because whatever's going on in her household, like you said, her mom might be kind of abusive. So
yeah. So Max is kind of upset, and Max lives right across the way from Eddie. And we see Eddie in his little trailer at the very end of the episode, but we'll save that for the very end. I just wanted to keep talking about our original cast members. So we see a little bit of Will. He's with 11. And then his brother, Jonathan, is like a total stoner now. And he's with some dude that looks like he's straight out of Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. He had that weeder, right? It's like a bird feeder that had a big pot leaf on it.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know how his teacher is okay with that.
That's a good point. And then they didn't really show much of Jonathan, but they did show a bit of Nancy. What do you think about Nancy and her little reporter boyfriend guy that's bothering her?
Oh, okay.
That dweeby guy.
He wasn't annoying to where you kind of like him at the end. He was just straight.
He was just straight up annoying. Yeah. And so Nancy and the reporter guy are at this basketball game, and Steve is there with a date. But Steve's friend that's so awesome, the girl that works in the video store. Robin. I love Robin. Robin is at the game too, and she's in the band, and she's hoping that this girl is a lesbian as well that's in the band, right?
Yeah.
And you laugh now because everybody's so open about their preferences and their pronouns and stuff, right? But in the 80s, you couldn't reveal if you were gay or anything like that. You get like serious.
Ostracized?
Maybe even worse, like horrible things could happen to you. So she's sort of worried about, does this girl like me or does she not? And then they do this thing where they cut between this basketball game and this D&D game. And I feel like it's such an example of what Stranger Things is, right? Because it's like so kind of over the top with the D&D, so dramatic. And the basketball game is so intense, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's just a D&D game. They're just rolling dice, right? But they make it seem like, oh my God, it's freaking Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
So did you like that sequence?
I thought the basketball stuff was kind of cool, but the D&D stuff, I like playing D&D, okay? And it gets intense, but not like that intense, okay?
Yeah.
That's a little...
That was right up our alley because Pepper plays basketball and we also play D&D and stuff too. So it was like two of our things simultaneously. With that sequence too, another example is Lucas can't play the game, right? He can't join the Hellfire Club and play the game. So his sister's brought in as a replacement. And they're singing the national anthem at the basketball game, and it eventually becomes like a guitar solo.
Yeah.
And they cut to her and Dustin and Mike walking in the school hallway, and she's got the American flag on her back. And it's just like, oh, look how badass they are. And it was like too much.
It was cringy.
Cringy, that's the key word there.
What's it called? plus the thing with the American flag does not even make sense. As a director, going to play D&D.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with the American flag?
I agree. I don't know what was going on there. So, like, they have this great game, and Lucas ends up scoring the point. I actually really like that part where he shot the ball and he got it in right there.
I did like that, yeah.
And the sister rolled a 20. That's pretty awesome, too. And so things are looking good for our friends, but then we have this really disturbing last scene. Do you want to tell everybody what ends up happening? Well, what happens before the...
Like that thing chasing the girl all over her house, I guess. It was originally the drug man's house.
Eddie's house. Yeah.
Eddie's house. Yeah. And then it kind of transitioned into her house, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like
this guy, the Duffer Brothers have even said that this is supposed to be like the Freddy Krueger of Stranger Things, right? Because it's a villain, it's a monster that can talk, right?
Yeah.
And he's just doing straight up Freddy stuff. You're in one area, and then all of a sudden you're in like a dream, and there's all this kind of disturbing reality. We see the mom working at a sewing machine, making the dress fit for her daughter.
Yeah. And
like, what was up with the mom's face? She looked kind of like a corpse, right?
I thought she just turned around and she had like the
eyes,
something. I don't remember.
White eyes, yeah. And then the dad, it almost looked like he face
was sewn together, right?
Right. So, and I think that was kind of like the implication is that maybe the mom would say abusive things and the dad just kind of would always have his mouth shut, right?
Yeah.
So then at the very end, this creature shows up, and she's having this whole episode right in front of this Eddie guy who was going to give her drugs. And I actually really like that sequence. This made me like him more because he was worried that she was going to be mean to him since she was a cheerleader. She was worried he was going to be mean to her because he's this sort of over-the-top kind of rocker guy. Yeah. And they had this bonding moment, and
she dead.
She's dead. and so she's like frozen in place, and he's trying to wake her up, and this thing comes in to her dream, and it like puts its hand up in front of her face, and then her limbs like contort into the real world, and then her freaking eyes burst at the very end. That's the last thing we see for that episode. So pretty horrific stuff for Stranger Things.
Like, what's the worst stuff that we've seen in previous seasons? Can you kind of remember?
Probably the thing with Barb, where it was like there was like a slug or something.
Came out of Barb. Yeah,
that was pretty bad. I always think that in the third season, when like the people are kind of made up of that goo, and they are like
copies of the people.
And then when they all walk in and they kind of like turn back into goo to become that big monster.
I don't think goo stuff is just slime. Just straight up slime. It does not bother.
Yeah, but whenever you have a thing where like an alien thing takes over people and like changes their body, that always kind of freaks me out. You know?
You're also scared of Jurassic Park, man. That's...
Sure. That's okay. That's good. So anyway, what do you think that thing's connection to 11 is? Because it obviously killed all those kids in that facility in the beginning.
Man, I don't know. It's kind of getting a little, like, too much. Like, you can't even tell what's going on anymore. Because you had the Demogorgons and you had that giant shadow thing. Now you got some random man that talks. Is it just like some kind of portal hell? That's my only...
The Upside Down?
The Upside Down, yeah. Is it like another keyword for like the underworld or death or something like that, you know?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Because like it definitely seems like the Demogorgon, and like there's multiple Demogorgons, right?
It seems like they're connected to the thing that they called the Mind Flayer. That was like that big thing that was in season 2 and season 3, right?
So what's his connection to those things? I don't know.
Maybe Chrissy's death could have symbolized like I know this obviously isn't going to be what actually happens in the show, but like it could have symbolized like suicide or something, you know?
Maybe it could. Yeah, he did say to her, "Your suffering is going to end," or something like that, right? So maybe it is that. I'm not sure. There's a couple of ways I think it could go. I think that it could be that he is like a creature that lives in the Upside Down, and he just has consciousness, and he's like a nightmare creature. It could be that he was like a human that got sent over there and kind of corrupted and stuff. One of the main things of Stranger Things is that there's like stuff happening in Russia and there's stuff happening in the United States. We haven't seen any of the Russia stuff this episode, but we know we will with like Hopper, right? So maybe he's like a creature that was sent over to, like a human in Russia that got sent to the other side or the Upside Down. I don't know.
Wait, You think that's what he would look like?
I think that like if you live in the Upside Down for a really long time, you might look like him eventually. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
And you know what's the funny thing, Pepper, is
and
that
wouldn't he speak Russian? I'm sorry. Sorry.
He would most likely have an accent.
Yeah, you're right.
But you know, the funny thing is, Pepper, is that there's already been 6 episodes released. I'm sure there's a ton of people that have already watched all 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Even though they're extra long. We've only just watched episode 1. Danny and Charlotte are gonna watch 2 and 3, and they're gonna review it on this channel on the Lastercast. And then if Pepper enjoyed this, she'll tell me later. If Pepper enjoyed this, then we'll come back for 4 and 5. You know, we'll get the whole season, but we like to do it in little chunks. So if you guys like in-depth reviews of the entire episode, then definitely come check us out on the Lastercast. Was there anything else you wanted to add to our discussion?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, I think. Sorry.
Here we go. Yes.
Sorry.
I was kind of premature. Let's go. Come on.
All right. So what's it called? I think Max living across the street from the Eddie guy is going to come in handy for the next episode because you know, she might get suspicious or something and walk in and then see the incident, or maybe she'll, you know, hear something. You know, I think she definitely lives near him for a purpose in the show.
I think if I remember from the trailer for this season, they show Max kind of getting lifted up like the way that the girl got lifted up too. So like maybe eventually that creature's going to get her. I don't think he's going to kill her. I think that like 11 will save her or something. You know,
that wouldn't be a loss to me. She's kind of an annoying character.
See, I like Max. This reminded me of something that's not connected to this shit at all. But you said you want to see a slasher soon, right? Because Pepper, unlike Charlotte, has only seen a handful of horror things. We should totally watch Fear Street because Fear Street was on Netflix.
R.L. Stine thing?
It's hardcore. It's more hardcore than some of the stuff that we saw just last night. But it's got Robin in it, and it's got Max. Max is like one of the main people in the second one. We'll check that out.
Yeah.
But was there anything else you wanted to add to it?
No.
Okay, cool. So anyway, this is me and Pepper. If you guys have not subscribed to the Lastercast already, please do. And Danny and Charlotte's review of 2 and 3 will most likely be up within a day or two. So I hope you guys enjoyed season 4 of Stranger Things so far, and we will see you guys real soon.
Okay.